Welcome, everyone, and thanks again for tuning in. My name is Cecilia, and I am the Associate Director for Adult Education and Literacy, Data System Support, and I will be leading this training today. The topic of this training is instructors. I don't expect that it will go the full hour. We've covered a lot of these things in previous trainings, and the instructors portion of DAISI is pretty slim, so we will be covering just a few things. And now we're just going to quickly go over the agenda for today. So first we're going to review how to add instructors. We're specifically going to dive a little deeper into the status and site access functions of the instructor page, because those are things that are a little bit important and are often overlooked. And we're going to review the professional development tab of the instructor screen, talk a little bit about how to add a professional development activity, and we're going to figure out how to get a list of instructor classes. And then at the end, we'll have time for a question and answer session. You can either ask questions specifically about instructors, or since today's training is a little bit short, I'm open to any other questions that you might have as well. So I'm using the demo DAISI site, and I'm using the program administrator view. So if you are an instructor, your view is probably going to be slimmer than this. But if you have any specific questions about the instructor view, I'm happy to answer those. So we're going to start out by going into V2 DAISI. And I'm going to start by showing you how to add an instructor. So you start out by clicking the Instructors tab, go to the Add Instructor option, and the first thing you will do is add the Social Security number of the instructor. And I'm going to add one that I have already prepared so I can show you something. So you'll notice that if you try to add a Social Security number that is already registered in the system, DAISI will give you a warning message saying Social Security number is already in the system, and then it'll tell you which instructor has that Social Security number. So if you do notice that an instructor already has that Social Security number, you can go to their page and then take a look, and then if they're already in the system, you can edit their profile in order to match the current fiscal year. But I do want to underline something that we kind of touched upon in the students training. So you'll notice that this instructor's name is David Balser, and his birth date is January 1st, 1980. So just keep that in mind. And so if I leave the Social Security field blank and I just add his last name, his first name, and then his date of birth, I'm not getting any warning messages. So if I were to continue, I would end up creating a duplicate account for David Balser. So I highly recommend starting with a Social Security number, just so you'll know immediately off the bat whether or not that instructor is already in the system. So now we're going to scroll down to the status section. So the status section has two options, either active or inactive. And these two options sort of mean the same thing that they do in the student section. So active means that they're currently active in the system, they're teaching a class, they're working at your program, and inactive means that maybe they're taking a leave of absence or they're not currently teaching a class. And I want to underline this note here that says status inactive doesn't prevent instructors from logging into DAISI. So if an instructor is registered as inactive in your system, they still should be able to log in and access all of their data. And it also says Please change site access to no access if you want that should say something different, if you want to prevent an instructor from logging into DAISI. And it says visit the roles page. This also should probably be changed. The site access controls are actually right down here in the site access box. So after an instructor leaves your program permanently, I highly recommend changing site access to no access. This is something that Jane usually sends out in her quarterly reporting instructions. It's really important that the only people that have access to our student data are the people that are currently working with our students. That's a huge data risk. So again, just a quick reminder, this really shouldn't take long. Just make sure that you're going in and changing no access, changing the site access to no access after instructors leave. So next, we're going to briefly review the professional development portion of the instructor page. So again, that's on the instructors tab. Program Prof Development, or Prof Devel, that stands for Professional Development. And when you click on that, it comes to this page. So this is how you add an instructor professional development activity to help instructors meet that 12-hour requirement that they're required to meet every year. So you'll just click the instructor's name. And you can also, if it's something that you know all of your instructors attended, you can select this top checkbox to select all of your instructors. Select the activity date. And then there's this activity type field. It might not exactly align with what you are, with the topic of the professional development activity. So if you go through this list and you realize none of them match, you can choose other. I'm going to choose DAISI. The hours attendance is just the length of your training, so I'll put 1. And then these two are optional, but the description is mandatory. So I'll just say instructors section, and then click submit. And you should get this message saying that the activity has been added. And then if you want to view that activity, you can just go to an instructor, go to their professional development tab after you click their name. And then if I go to the same topic that I added in earlier, I added DAISI training, and then click this number here under total hours to date, then it'll show me that training that I just added for December 9th, which is today's date. And this professional development tab also shows you a few other important pieces of information. If you click on this total hours attended link, it'll show you all of the activities that they've attended during the current fiscal year. And it also tells you whether or not they've met the 12-hour requirement, which you could also see by just looking at the total hours attended number. And it has the professional development requirement rules under the notes at the bottom of the page. So these are really good to reference. I see someone asked, can instructors see their own PD hours? I believe they can. That is something that I will check in about after the training. And then the last thing I wanted to show you was how to view all of the classes that an instructor is teaching. So I'm going to use an instructor called Tim Baugh. And one way to view his classes is by clicking on his name and then clicking on the View Classes tab in his profile. And this will show me all of the classes that he's teaching. Another way to do it that's a little bit quicker, if I go back, is by just clicking straight on this View Classes icon next to his name. So if I click on this folder, it'll just take me straight to that tab. And you can kind of play around with this view as needed. So you can list only the active classes, so only the classes that are running right now. You'll see that the end date for these classes is August 29th, so neither of these classes are currently running. And you can also go straight to their stacked classes by clicking this number, and it'll tell you the class stacks that contain classes that he is teaching. And there's one more thing that I wanted to show you before I go. So I'm actually going to change the view here, and I'm going to go back. I'm going to change my role. And I'm now going to change to Instructor Enter Attendance. So this is the view that people with Instructor Enter Attendance should have. And as you can see, yes, the instructors can view their own professional development activities. They have the same view as a program administrator. They just cannot add their own own instructional activities. You can see this button is grayed out. And the thing that I wanted to show you here is actually a new feature. So when you click on a class as an instructor or a program administrator, but I really wanted to highlight this for the instructors, there's this new tab called Student Testing Report. So when you click on this tab, it's not going to show you anything right now because there are no attendees for this class, but it'll actually show you all of the information that was previously on the student testing report. And there are these search boxes at the top of each of the columns so that you can filter out for certain criteria that you're looking for. So for example, if you only want to see students that are ready to post-test, you can type yes in this box, and then it would filter only for students that are ready. So the student testing report in an Excel version and also in a PDF version, those are coming. There are just a couple more adjustments that we want to make before we release that to all the programs, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that for instructors and program administrators, this option is already available for you all. So that is actually all that I had today. Before we move on to the question and answer section, I wanted to just pop this up on the screen. So again, if you have any additional questions and this is your first time and you've never seen this slide before, you're welcome to visit the online help guide. I've been working to update the recordings. I just added the classes recording yesterday, and the rest of the training recordings are available under the trainings page. If you have any technical questions, you can direct those to the DAISI support desk, and you're always welcome to contact either myself or your regional support staff member if you have any policy-related questions.